Good evening to you both, gentlemen.
Good evening, Tom.
Good evening. It was a busy weekend of sport. Fraser, what did you get up to?
Well, I was working the weekend. I was actually at the Rugby League last week for Wales, which was a nice experience to go to St Helens. Not so much the result, but I've just come from the Neumann Indoor Centre tonight, and then the first game of the night, Llanelli have beaten Pembrokeshire, minus me. I was available for that one, but not selected. But a couple more results to come as well.
You'd think they'd learn now, wouldn't they? If it's an early fixture and Fraser's available. You mentioned there about the Rugby League as well. Yeah. That's where you were last Monday. Explain the atmosphere of what it was like there, all the way up in St Helens.
Slightly strange, Tom. 20,000 seater stadium, only 8,000 or 9,000 in there. Good actually following for Tonga. They were British-based Tongan fans, but they were very loud. And yeah, Wales got the early try they needed to make the game of it, so to speak. But Tongans way too physical and way too strong. It was a nice atmosphere though, a friendly one. Nothing like the kind of chaos you associate with the Rugby Union World Cup over there. But no, unfortunately, Wales not strong enough to get through that group.
And of course, Wales Rugby League, they're playing right now.
Yeah, 12-0 down with Papua New Guinea. It could be a long night, that one.
That's not ideal. They need to win by more than 22 points to qualify to the next round. Our fingers are crossed. Gordon, how was your weekend of sport?
In between dodging the showers, Tom, I went to Clarby Road. They tried to do me at Clarby. I went to their first team pitch and nobody was there at all. No cars parked or nothing. I looked at my app and the game's still on. So I went the other side of the village, Tom, and lo and behold, they were in their reserve team's pitch playing there. So Clarby actually tonked Tish 10-0. Clarby were bottom the table, but they've moved off the bottom, and Tish have gone to the bottom. So then I dashed off West County, where I met you and your mate on the old decks there at the Bridge Meadow.
Yes.
Yeah, Toby and yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, they played against the champions, and unfortunately a couple of soft goals, as you saw, Tom, put half of West County, and a little bit of pressure, 3-0 down just after the break as well. Always an uphill task, but I'll give the boys a bit of credit. They stuck to it. They got a goal right at the end, so the scoreline wasn't a 0, it was a 3-1er. So it's going to be a really tough season for Half West County. What I can see at this moment in time, it's not getting any easier week by week, is it?
No, and their next run of fixtures, their whole month of November is away. And in this league, that means lots of journeys up to the north and through those winding mountains. That's a nauseating journey to make every week.
Yeah, let's hope some of the boys are back fit as well. The boys that have been out on long-term injury, that's what we need. And Tony Pennock needs those boys back to try and get some results. Yeah,
and I was also at the Yogi Bridge Meadow Stadium, and as you just said, Gordon, the players, they've made a good account of themselves.
They did.
They fronted up, they faced up to it. Very easy first goal. Was the goalkeeper, academy prospect, making his first start as well, so very well done to him. Was he impeded? Ryan thinks he's got a picture to show that he was, so no doubt we'll see that on. You can have it on season 2.
No VAR down the Bridge Meadow, unfortunately, Tom.
Ryan with the referee there. But also I was at the Nest on yesterday, where the Half West County have been running a FIFA tournament. And we streamed that live on our Facebook, and it went live on Stuart Coombs' gaming show with Mags Optics. And you know what? The atmosphere in there was just as what you'd expect in the stands of the Bridge Meadow. It was brilliant. Wyndham was there. His boy was playing in the tournament. He's like, "Come on, shoot!" And it's all on video, so you can see that as well.
Proper sport these days.
It is. It was trialled at the Commonwealth Games, having it as well, which is brilliant. But we're turning our attention mainly to rugby for this first part. There are lots of goings on in rugby. In fact, Stephen Price is joining us on Facebook. Good evening. 2 great wins for Merlin's Bridge on Saturday. We'll be touching on that a little bit later on.
The second team one. Yeah.
Yes,
but they played rugby the second half, Pele.
But yeah, we are going to look at rugby first off, because we've just mentioned Rugby League. The Women's Rugby World Cup is going on. There really is a lot to do with the oval shaped ball. And Fraser, if you want to kick us off, with looking at the WRU Cup.
WRU Cup, or for want of a better term, Farcical Cup on Saturday. Look, Tom, it's been an own goal from the WRU. It's obviously been a knockout competition until last year, when they went into group stages because there was no league fixtures because of COVID, and they were localised cup games, and I think everyone appreciated having at least 3 competitive fixtures when there was nothing else going on. This year they've tried to cram the same format into a full league season, and it's just created a mess. Unfortunately, you've got clubs now who who were looking at travelling a long way to play dead rubbers in cup competitions they arguably didn't want to be in the first place, and as a result you had 30 odd called off games from the cup on Saturday. Look, I'm not going to be a hypocrite. I've never backed people who pull out of cup games in rugby. I don't like it in the Pembrokeshire Cup. I don't like it in the WRU Cup. I call out any side for doing that. You know, you should fulfil fixtures. You can't complain when fixtures are gone. Otherwise, if you don't, and a couple of my former clubs did it, St David's, Whitland, I'd say the same about them. You know, I'm not an advocate for that at all. But the WRU have also got to realise that this format hasn't worked, and I hope they do address it and change it in time the next year.
I think they will. I mean, as you said, there's a lot of dead rubber games there, and as you said, the WRU is a knockout competition that we've been used to. I'd love to see it go back to the old format, but it never will, to the good old days when you had the first class clubs coming down to Pembrokeshire clubs and playing. I remember, you know, going back in the day that Neath came down here, and there was other clubs as well. Llanelli came down to Neumann and played. So we won't see that again, but I think the WRU will be, it was an experiment more than anything to see how this would go, and obviously it hasn't gone too well. Obviously you want to do well in cup competition. If you haven't got a strong side, it's not, they tend to drop out because they're not strong enough. And it's not the thing to do. I agree with you, Fraser, what you say. Your fixtures should be fulfilled, but I understand where they're coming from as well when they do it as well. It's difficult. It costs the club a bit of money. I don't know whether the WRU fund these teams for actually travelling.
You have a situation now, Gord, where I think the fine for not fulfilling a fixture is less than the cost of a bus for an away trip. So it's a no-brainer option.
Yeah. But anyway, I think it's an experiment from the WR's point of view. They probably will not do this format next season. They'll go back to its original format, a one-off knockout game, and then move on. But it's disappointing to see that happening throughout Wales. So many teams dropping out because it's a good day out for a lot of clubs and a different experience for players as well. But unfortunately it hasn't caught on too well in the early stages of the competition. It'll go well once they get to the nitty-gritty of it, but the early stages have been really poor.
It's a shame because on paper it looks like a really great thing. Instead of just playing the same teams week in, week out, you get that chance to play someone outside of your region or your district, and on paper it sounds great. It's a day out, but it's just impractical.
No, you're right. And you're right, for a day out I think it's feasible. We see it in football in the West Wales Club. We have lower league teams that enter that in the hope of a long away day, don't we? But over 2 or 3 games it's just proved not feasible, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah. And then sticking with the WRU, in fact, and the decision makers and those that be, they had a bit of a vote going on in the week as well, but it didn't happen. Fraser, do you want to fill us in a bit about this?
I mean, it's a complex one, so I've just got my notes here to make sure I have this right. So there was obviously reform proposals put to all clubs within the WRU, amateur and semi-professional, if you like, and professional, and if approved, it would have given the WRU board the option of appointing their own independent chair, someone not elected by the clubs, a person with the skills to head a business which turns over 100 million. They needed a 75% majority vote to get that through, and they fell short on 65%. Those who did vote for it to go through, has been some vociferous criticism on their part on clubs holding the WRU back. What you do have now, Tom, is still a situation where the amateur clubs essentially have a huge say in the running of the professional game. My personal opinion, Gordon may disagree, but we'll find out now, is that you shouldn't have a board run like that. There's such a huge conflict of interests. You almost need separate boards running the amateur and the professional stuff. We don't know which way the Pembrokeshire clubs voted. If any are listening, it'd be nice to hear. A lot of clubs did come on social media last night and indicate which way they voted, although all those who voted in favour actually came on. You noticed a few that didn't, were in the silent majority, so to speak. But it would be nice to know if Pembrokeshire clubs voted, and if they did vote against the reforms, why? Because there may be justifiable reasons for that, and they may have their own, feel that they're vindicated in doing so. But it'd be nice to know why.
Yeah, it'd be great actually if you are part of a rugby club here in Pembrokeshire, you voted for or against it. If you were to email sport@purewestradio.com and give us your reasons for or against, then that would be great. Jordan, what's your view?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? It was an amateur game years ago, run by amateur people. Unfortunately now, since is it 96, it's gone professional. it's a turnover of how many million is it a year? A lot
Yeah.
of money. You need business heads there, obviously. But I understand the amateur clubs wanting to have their say. It is our WRU at the end of the day. But we have to be so careful. As Fraser's pointed out, it might be a good thing to have a professional side and keeping the amateur as it is. But you have to, in this day and age, it's important that we get the best out of everything we can. And that's financially, player-wise, welfare, everything that comes into place. And it is a professional game, and we have to, go in that direction, whether the amateur clubs like it or not. But they should still have a part say in what's going on, but the overall say has to be a business, and it has to be run like a business.
And the problem is we don't know what's amateur and what's semi-pro anymore in Wales.
No,
because there's no blanket system that covers all leagues. You've got clubs in Division 1, some are paying, some aren't. You've got clubs in the Championship, some are paying, some aren't. So that'll make the ones who are paying semi-professional. We're in the same league as amateurs and often not above them. You've got clubs, and Gordon knows it goes on as well as I do, in the lowest league in Wales who do throw money at players.
Yeah.
They might pass it off as travel expenses or business sponsors or whatever rubbish that is. Payments go on at all levels.
It does, Fraser.
And this again, I only suspect this, and if anyone watching was to come on and argue, that's fine. But I suspect there are a lot of clubs who do pay players who perhaps fear that if they give up this power or this perceived say that they have, that player payments are outlawed at every level below perhaps the Premiership or even below regional level. And that in their case would throw away their model. So I don't know. I'm speculating, but it's such almost a chaotic mess at the moment. You just don't know what's what from league to league.
There's a bumpy ride ahead. Fraser.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can see it,
Absolutely.
and you can understand the lesser clubs wanting to hang on to what they've got, because they've worked hard to get where they are. Yeah, and they need. Shouldn't say it. They need to pay players to keep that going. And I mean, at the end of the day, there's a professional vehicle the WRU are running. Yeah. They're all being paid, aren't they? So it's a difficult one. It's not going to be easy to be solved.
I mean, the main problem we've got is the union's financially stricken as well.
Yeah,
that's what's overriding all this. And you've got people complaining about rising test match ticket prices. Well, there is that to try and make up a shortfall. There is a reasoning for that. I don't think they're deliberately out to rip people off, but it's a dire situation financially, that's for sure.
It really is.
It's a very awkward one for the WRU because they've come under criticism for those ticket prices and the reselling of tickets and the fact that they bought a hotel, and people think, how is this in the interest of rugby?
On a more serious note, they were talking about dropping one of the regions as well. So you're talking about a lot of players losing their livelihoods as well, and that's another chapter, isn't it? Is part of it. Yeah.
And of course, in England, we've seen that with two clubs in the last 2 weeks as well, and they're under kind of administration, very short time periods, and at least WRU have tried for 3 years to soften the blow a little bit, and if they can't recoup that cost, then they can't keep the professional game or the regional game and the grassroots game going at the same level. It's really trying times for WRU. When you contrast that to the positive motion that the FAW is having at the moment through, like, they've launched a new foundation going forward as well for different facilities, the WRU is really in a difficult position.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, we all know what breeds following, and people spending their money more than anything is success as well, doesn't it? And the regions aren't getting success. They're up against it financially, they're up against it with their squad sizes. It's been a long time since one of them, I think it was the Scarlets, who were the last a few years ago, who won the URC, I forget what it's called now these days.
Yeah, that's the one.
And a first European Cup win from a Welsh region is further away than ever. So
Cardiff was the last one, was
Cardiff,
it? If you go back that far?
But not in the main competition.
Not in the main
second
competition.
tier.
We've never had one.
We haven't had one, no.
I should say, on a more positive note, we moved this conversation on. Actually, I forgot to mention this in the intro. I was at the Torch Theatre on Friday with Scott Quinnell.
Oh wow!
Lovely.
And his brother, his son Steele. A fantastic duo, hilarious story. Spoke a lot about players who Gordon would have played with actually 50 years ago this week, maybe even today, wasn't it? Llanelli 9, say Llanelli's 3, Gord?
Yeah.
Few of your old teammates involved in that one?
There was a few involved, and it's funny you should touch on that, Fraser. It's Ray Gravel. It's 15 years ago today that Ray Gravel passed away. Ironically, on the same day in 1972, he was part of the team that beat the mighty All Blacks, and they drank the pubs dry. Yes.
It was all a lot simpler in those days.
Very simple, very simple. But even in those days, they were amateurs.
Yeah.
But they all had boot money, Fraser. They all had
Oh,
boot
all
money.
right.
The brown envelope was passed about.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but we are not allowed to talk about it.
No, but we are going to talk about it. So, so come on then, Gordon. Well, what are your memories of the aftermath of that fixture and some of the guys that you?
Well,
played with?
it's let's be honest, it's the last time that a Welsh team has actually beaten the All Blacks. That's how far we got to go back. We haven't, in my lifetime, I haven't seen Wales actually beat the All Blacks. Obviously, I remember the Scarlets beating them that day at Stradley Park, and it was a momentous occasion. And Delmy Thomas was captain, who's a St Clair's man, and Gareth Jenkins, who went on to be Welsh coach, was playing on the flank. Phil Bennett was outside half. Selwyn Williams, who I did play with, was actually on the bench. Chipper Hopkins was playing scrum after with Phil Bennett. Roy Burgess and Graves in the centre. I mean, the names have just come off the top of the head. J.J. Williams on the wing. It's some great players there. They, and a lot. I remember Derek Quinnell. He was actually a British Lion before he got his first Welsh cap, which Fraser will remember. You see the footage of him coming through the Arms Park, moving the policeman out of the way just to get onto the park to win his cap. That's how much it meant to those lads. They were great days.
Funny enough, Scott said on Friday that between him and his father, they'd beaten New Zealand 5 times. And all 5 were with his father.
Incredible.
That's amazing. But however, one team that couldn't overcome New Zealand, the Black Ferns, Wales women in their second time of trying in the quarterfinals of a major tournament 12 months after they had their professional contract. Have they moved in the right direction, Fraser?
Oh yeah, certainly progress being made in the last 12 months. A long way to go, but certainly they have. And look, in the World Cup, they were never going to get close to New Zealand realistically. I said after the Scotland game, I thought they got the win they came for. In hindsight, that was maybe a little harsh. They ran Australia very close as well in a game they could have won. And they reached the quarter-final stage, which realistically was as good as they could have aimed for. Yeah, progress has definitely been made, certainly fitness-wise, performance-wise, Six Nations results, and this World Cup as well.
Yeah, it seems to be a lot of support for Johan Cunningham as well as the head coach there. The squad seem to like the setup that's there as well. And of course, Jazz Joyce and Lisa Neumann featuring, or Lisa, I think, played in every game, didn't she?
Sure. Yeah, Johan, former teammate of mine, actually. He's cut his teeth in coaching and he's doing well.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. It is 22 minutes past 8 o'clock. And, well, I hope that you're sat at home and the trick-or-treaters have passed you by and you're sat cosy next to maybe a radiator or a log fire or maybe just a candle to stay warm, because we've got Alistair Bell joining us, ice swimmer. And it makes me cold just thinking about it. I've kept my jumper on deliberately because it's making me cold just thinking about it. Fraser, you've taken a dip with him before. We're going to hear all about it. So don't go anywhere. It is Monday evening. It's Pure West Sport with Eaton, Evans and Morris. We're live on Facebook. Drop us a comment and we'll take your questions to Johan. We've got Michael Bublé. It's a beautiful day on the way for you here on Pure West Radio.
Eaton, Evans and Morris Solicitors.